looking at what Will Anderson has done so far, I'll ask you the question, knowing good and well what your answer is. It's probably the same as mine. Where are you at on his value relative to what was traded to get him?
To be honest with you, I don't necessarily care. Like the people that want to make a big deal out of the Will Anderson thing have entirely too much time on their hands.
Yeah.
In the end, if the Texans are winning, yes, you want Will Anderson to be a part of it, and yes, you want the sacks to match. You know what I mean? You want the stats to equal whatever the value of the draft was. You want the stats to equal what his paycheck is. But for me, if he's impacting this defense and they're productive and they're winning and they're dominating this and that, I don't care. Like, I don't understand why we have that satisfaction going, oh yeah, that was a great trade, or oh no, that was a horrible trade. It's fine for me that you he needs to be like all time great because he's a third pick in the draft. There's busts left, right, up, and down. Who was it? Was it Kayvon Thibodeau that was drafted not too long ago?
He's
And
good. It took him
exactly,
time, but he's good.
but that's the thing. Early on, oh, it's a bust. It's like there's no way that like the book can't be wrote for a guy in the first season
I'm going to
of a
name for you a
news of
couple of defensive linemen that are elite right now that had the same amount of sacks as Will Anderson does right now before the season is over in their first season. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. Those are names. Those are the names right there. Those are both guys that had 7 sacks in their rookie season. So I don't get what we're talking about. I mean, I feel like you're living in the future, Tom, right? And a lot of Texans fans are still living in this poverty mentality of being a fan of a team that's not any good. And when your team's not good, all you have to talk about is the fact that they traded this many picks or they made these moves that poverty teams have to make in order to get out of poverty, because you have to spend money to make money. You have to spend draft picks, give fans, and I'm guilty of it. When you have this many draft picks from trading Deshaun Watson, you now have that potential. The Rockets are in the same situation still where, they're getting better, but everyone's like, well, we got all these Nets picks and there's all this potential. But until that potential is realized on the court, that's all it is. And some people are content to live with that potential, and they'll complain and just gripe anytime that potential is traded away to win right now. They're like, this team's not in a situation to win right now. This team's not good enough. And even throughout the season, as the Texans, I've told you, my expectations have shifted throughout the season. This Texans team can win right now. They've shown the ability. I have full faith they can beat the Colts this weekend and play a playoff game this season. And we still got fans talking about how the rebuild is it's too early in the rebuild. What rebuild? The Texans are not rebuilding. And so, I mean, a comparable situation. The 49ers have been deep in the playoffs for the past 2 seasons straight. You know what they traded legitimately 3 first-round picks for? They traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a backup quarterback for the Cowboys right now. They've got Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, starting for them. And you know who's not talking about how many draft picks the 49ers wasted? If you're a poverty team, that's malpractice by your GM. And he should be fired, because if that doesn't work, then and you don't win games, then yeah, fire John Lynch. But guess what? John Lynch is still gainfully employed by the 49ers. And you know why? Because he found a way. He made the move he needed to. You have to make those moves when you're in poverty to try and get out of it. And if it works, it does. If it doesn't, then you lose your job, right? But if you don't make that move, you get fired. So, I mean, John Lynch did what he had to do. Nick Caserio is doing what he has to do. He is making waves, and it's working. So I agree with you. I don't see why, as Texans fans, we have to have this conversation every time that Will Anderson does or doesn't perform in a game about how much we spent on Will Anderson. And honestly, Will Anderson is doing far better than Trey Lance ever will in the NFL. So we paid far less for a player that is in a lesser position relative. I'm comfortable saying that the value of a defensive end relative to a quarterback is lower. But that being said, he's doing far better at that position than Trey Lance will ever do in the NFL. So I don't get why we're complaining about it when this team has already shown early signs of success, earlier than they probably ever should have, right? So I agree with you. We're in the same boat there.